The only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. It's important that people wake up to what is going on. It's time that we read the Constitution. It is error that needs the support of government. Truth can stand alone. That was given to us by Thomas Jefferson. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Daniel Hapney. This is The Real Story. Tonight, what I've decided to bring you as a follow-up to a previous episode where I went over the First Amendment, I thought I would bring you today the Second Amendment. These are amendments that we know as the Bill of Rights that were added to the Constitution actually a couple of years after the Constitution was signed and stuff. And they were brought and also voted on once again by all the representatives and put into law. When I say into law, it is an amendment to the Constitution. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the Second Amendment. Okay? And before I do that, I thought we'd go over some world history, some recent history you may know, some history that's way far back there that you may not even consider. But why I considered bringing it to you is because I want you to understand, or maybe get you in the mindset or think like the founders, the people who wrote these, Bill of Rights, what they were thinking and why, of all things, they wanted to include this Second Amendment. Okay, you remember the First Amendment and stuff, how it dealt with the freedom of religion, the freedom, to practice any religion, okay, and that the government wouldn't be involved in any part of religion, and that we had the right to redress grievances of the government and for the people to peacefully assemble. Okay, and we also had the freedom of speech, okay, not hate speech laws. We had the freedom of speech, and we also had what? We had the freedom of press. So anyway, that was First Amendment. Tonight, we're going to give you a little bit of the Second Amendment, and like I say, to take you back in history, gosh, I remember in early martial arts training, when I was studying karate, I found out what the word meant, karate, and I learned that it meant empty hand. And the reason that was important was back in Japan, okay, back in Okinawa and also in China and stuff, many times when they would have these warlords and they would want to take people over, the first thing they do is take their weapons from them. And so once again, the martial arts, okay, or what we know and understand as the martial arts, were what people had to do to train themselves to be able to defend themselves because they were weaponless. And an excellent book I'm going to recommend that you find out there is a book called The Weaponless Warrior by Richard Kim. Once again, find that book, The Weaponless Warrior. So anyway, we go back, and that's going back like 2,500 years and so. So anyway, that's what they did in the Orient, and people knew that they still needed the right. I mean, what does a free man have? A free man has the right and the ability to defend himself. And usually it's only when we get tyranny that someone says, well, that person shouldn't have the right to defend themselves. They should rely on someone else to defend them. Or they should rely on someone else to protect them. Or they should rely on someone else to protect and preserve their rights and their freedoms and liberties. So, let's see, what else can we tell you? Well, we're going to go to recent history. And this history is not pretty, but it's true. And it's something you should think about as viewers as I bring you this whole thought of, fighting for liberty and doing what it is to be aware and make your neighbors aware that when liberty's under attack, you should get up and do something. So let's go with, do we remember people like Stalin? Stalin, yeah, that guy. He started the USSR, or what they used to call the CCCP. But back in the days when they did that, one of the things they did was they said, you know what? Those Soviet citizens, they're not allowed to have firearms anymore. That made it easy for them to not only, we're going to centralize the government, control the food distribution, and be able to starve the people, but also, too, is we could round people up. The thought of rounding them up at night, the idea that someone's going to come knocking on the door while you just got into REM sleep. People understood this. And, I mean, I'm going back to a recent history. We can go back further, but think about that, okay? Wonder why Stalin decided that those people shouldn't have guns. For you Sharon viewers of, the Hebrew faith, you probably remember what Adolf Hitler did. He said, hey, you know what? We can't allow our citizens to have guns. Maybe only the citizens I choose, that the government chooses, can have guns. And you saw what happened. Once again, when the right of the people to defend themselves and the means for the people to defend themselves is taken away, tyranny follows shortly after. And it may only start like a little piece. You know, oh, we're just going to take the right of the, gypsies to defend themselves. Now gypsies can't have guns and knives and stuff. But this is what Adolf Alois Hitler did. And they did it for a reason. And you know the results of it. Because when people came to the door, let's say at night, late at night, and they're saying, hey, you got to come with us, your family's got to get on the train, if they did that to people that were armed, what was going to happen? They were going to suck lead. So they had to first disarm the populace and the citizens. Okay, so we can also, well, back to Stalin, just so you know, the effect of that was about 40 million dead people that didn't die of natural causes. And Hitler, well, we know what happened during the Second World War. How about Mao? Remember Mao? He had a cultural revolution. Well, what's one of the first things Mao did? Mao made some famous quotes. He had great quotes like, politics is, the politicians are the one who have the gun. Okay, it's the power of the gun that makes politics what it is. Okay, that coercive power. Okay, so anyway, here we have Mao. What did Mao do? Mao took away the right of the citizens to defend themselves also. There were first it always starts with gun registration. Remember Hitler and Stalin? First we need to know if you got a gun. Do you have a gun out there? We need to know. Then we want to know where you keep your gun. There's only one reason, so they can come and take your gun. And if you remember the founding of this country, one of the episodes we took you to the North Bridge in Lexington, Massachusetts, where the shot heard around the world was fired. Here were farmers and what we think, our countrymen or whatever, Americans, who were fighting the tyranny of a king who thought that you were just a slave and a serf and you were on his land, okay, and they could take your son right off your farm and sail him over to England, okay, and try him without a jury of his peers. That's the tyrannical things that they were doing. And these people, once again, because they were in what is considered anyway the wilderness, outside of Boston. You probably remember General Gage in Boston. I'm moving right along here, but the British general was General Gage, and the different things that happened around that time frame. These people decided to defend their freedoms, and the reason they were able to do it is because they had the ability to defend themselves. And when you find governments working to take away that freedom, I'll ask you, how many slaves do you know that had weapons? Did they allow the slaves in Rome to have weapons? Remember that movie Spartacus? What happens when slaves get weapons? All of a sudden they start thinking like free men, huh? Like, I'm not your slave anymore. So you viewers out there, okay, whether you want to embrace the thought that, gee, the citizens around me may have the right and the willingness to defend themselves and also the means, our founding fathers just got rid of tyranny and oppression. They understood what it meant and the cost, once again, to be free, and they knew the tools like freedom of speech. Okay? And in this case, the Second Amendment, where it says, and I want to read it for you, lots of good things to read. And by the way, what I have here is I have a citizen's rule book. Kind of an interesting thing. It has the United States Constitution. Someday we may all be arrested just for having one of these. But it also has what we consider the Bill of Rights, okay? It also has the Declaration of Independence. It's rather an interesting piece, and not a bad thing. Lets you know about juries and, a little bit about the law that you don't get every day, or sometimes you don't get in school. But here is the Second Amendment for you. This is Article 2, by the way. And that is a well-regulated militia. And they stopped there and put a comma. Once again, for you English majors, and I believe those people had a good grasp of the English language, but they said a well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma. That's important, once again. They knew, okay? The right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma. See, they were talking about the right of the people, not of any special person, not of just the militia, okay? And it ends with, shall not be infringed. So the people that founded this nation, the people that fought off the tyranny, okay? The people that I think we have a fair amount to be grateful for, and we forget very easily, because how many classes did you take where they read that? Where they read any of the Constitution, or they read any of the Bill of Rights, or read the entire Declaration, so you understood what was going on in the founding. Nowadays, we don't hear that much in school. They might tell you about some battles, they may tell you about, gosh, I could go through the list, but why I'm bringing this to you is because, once again, here we're facing a time when you're starting to see more and more of a police state grow. You know, now you have to show your papers. Now they want you to take your shoes off at the airport. Now all of a sudden, once again, the laws that we founded the country